Hello everyone, my name's Mike and here at Tech Car Moon we uncover tech at home and in video. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, but today I'm going to be talking about the newly released MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020 model. So let's uncover it right now. So this model is super exciting and a little bit disappointing, and I will explain that later on in the video. Just to let you know, I have ordered this new model and I will also be doing another video on the differences between the 2019 model and the 2020 model. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video if you want to see that. But in this video, I'm going to be running down the new specifications across all the models. So first of all, let's talk about the display, because this is the number one thing that I think a lot of us were a little bit disappointed on, and that is that they stayed with the same 13.3-inch display instead of the rumored 14-inch display. Now I know it was only a rumor, but we were all kind of excited about this because a lot of reviewers were talking about this new 14-inch model, and even I was as well, because I generally was expecting it. This display, by the way, is still fantastic. It still has 500 nits of brightness, it still has the same pixel density, and it has the wide P3 color gamut. So it's a fantastic display, don't get me wrong, and I do love it. However, I was looking forward to this new 14-inch display. For whatever reason, Apple has possibly saved it for next year's model. One thing that I'm happy to see is that the prices have basically stayed the same. So we start off the model at £1,300, going up to £1,500, £1,800 and £2,000. Now the last two price points has the biggest differences, so I will be sure to talk about that later on in the video, but let's start off with the first two models. In terms of the processor, we see the same 8th gen i5 processors clocked at the same speeds with the same graphics unit, which is the Intel Iris Plus 645 integrated graphics. So we're going to be seeing the same performance as before. We also still see the same 8GB of LPDDR3 memory, which is clocked at the same speeds as before, and in terms of upgrading, we are still capped at 16GB. But one thing that I do like to see is that they have updated the SSD storage from 128GB to 256GB, which is amazing at that same price point. We still see the same two USB-C ports, which both have the same capabilities, so you can charge using both those ports, obviously one at a time, and we still see the headphone jack. So they haven't removed the headphone jack on this model. Yes! But one of the biggest improvements is the keyboard. They've now switched it from the old butterfly keyboard to now this new Magic keyboard, which is the same one that we've seen on the MacBook Air 2020 and the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So if you don't know about the differences between this keyboard and the previous generation, basically I'll run through it quickly. So in the 2016 model, 2017 model, 2018 model, and the 2019 model, they have this thing called the butterfly keyboard, which was unreliable and didn't feel great. Also, with the touch bar, they had some improvements whereby they had the escape key within this touch bar, and a lot of people didn't really like this. And they switched the arrow keys as well, which a lot of people didn't really like. So this new keyboard is a refinement on the old keyboard, which has a scissor switch mechanism, which is a lot more reliable. But what they've done is they've reduced the travel so it feels a little bit nicer to type. What they've also done is that they've separated not only the escape key on the touch bar, but they've also separated the Touch ID, which still uses the same T2 chip as before. We still see the same connectivity as before, so Bluetooth 5.0 as well as Wi-Fi AC. Unfortunately, no Wi-Fi 6 in this model. Something that would have been nice to see, but we haven't seen. One thing that I would have liked to have seen is an update on that web camera. Unfortunately, it's still using that 720p HD camera, which, to be honest, still looks like garbage. But one thing they have updated, which is nice to see, is the microphone array as well as the speaker array. So we should see better voice recordings as well as better audio for playing back music and watching movies. But that is basically it with the base models. The only improvements that we've seen is in the SSD storage as well as the keyboard. This is still a great MacBook. So even though they haven't really updated the specifications, it's not bad for £1,300. If you were having issues with, let's say, the thermals or the speed issues with the MacBook Air 2020, then this is going to be the perfect model for you, because for £1,300 you get double the amount of SSD storage, you're getting much better performance, and you should get much better cooling as well. So if you are, let's say, a pro user, so you use your laptop for, let's say, coding, compiling code or whatever, and video editing, then this is the MacBook to go for, because that keyboard that always scared me from that previous model, they've changed it now to this new Magic Keyboard. So this is now the model to go for. So now let's move on to the £1,800 and £2,000 model, because these models are the ones where we see the biggest differences. First of all is the processor. So unlike the £1,300 and £1,500 model, we see a 10th generation processor instead of the 8th generation processor. So the base clock on the i5 10th gen processors is 2 gigahertz, which is really, really quick. And we also see an update to the graphics, which is the Intel Iris Plus graphics. And one thing that we haven't really seen in the literature, which my best guess would be that this graphics, instead of it being the Intel Plus 645 graphics, we're now seeing the G7 graphics, which is a lot faster than the old graphics. Now this is upgradable to the i7, which clocks in at 2.3 gigahertz, but we see no i9 processor, which is probably a good idea for this type of laptop. One other huge improvement is that for the same money as before, we get 16 gigabytes of LPDDR4 memory instead of the LPDDR3 memory that we see in the other two models, and it's clocked at a higher speed, meaning that we should get huge amounts of performance out of the RAM. And on top of that, we also see a bump in the base storage as well. So we now see 512 gigabytes of internal storage for £1,800. This is a huge improvement. So if we just quickly run through that spec, we get the new 10th gen processor clocked at 2 gigahertz. We also get better graphics, internal graphics, and we also see better RAM, faster RAM, and we also get more storage in the SSD department. This is a huge update for £1,800. We also see the caps being lifted. If you wanted to upgrade the RAM, instead of only being capped at 16 gigabytes, you can now upgrade it to 32 gigabytes. And on the SSD, you have 4 terabytes of storage instead of 2 terabytes of storage. So this is huge. Now, obviously, they will be quite expensive upgrades to do, but the fact that you have that option now is huge on a 13-inch model. Also, with the £1,800 and £2,000 models, we also get 4 USB Type-C ports and the headphone jack. So very similar to the 2013 model, we still see the same 4 ports on the higher priced MacBook Pros, which is again nice to see. So that is my rundown of the new MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020 models. So in terms of the base models, we'll just quickly recap. We still see same processors and the same graphics units, as well as the same RAM, but we see a bump in the storage, or the base storage, and we also see the Magic Keyboard. So for anyone looking to upgrade their MacBook Pro for £1,300, this is the model to go for. If you are, let's say, a pro user, so you use your MacBook for sort of more intensive tasks, then skip the MacBook Air 2020 for £1,300 and just go for this model, because you will be more than fine. And moving on to the £1,800 and £2,000 model, I mean, this upgrade is huge. The fact that it has the 10th gen processor, faster graphics, better RAM, and better SSD storage, this is a winner in my book. And obviously that new keyboard, in terms of reliability, performance, I think this is probably the best value MacBook in the whole lineup. Yes, it's expensive at £1,800, but you pretty much get everything you need and want for that money. And it's definitely future-proof as well. I mean, if you want to keep your MacBook for 5, 6, even 7 years, for example, and I know that some people do, this is the MacBook to go for, because everything about it is just right. But there we have it. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave me a like. Also, leave a comment down below on whether you agree or disagree with any of my points, and what did you expect out of this MacBook Pro, because this was definitely not what I expected. I was almost disappointed, but also kind of happy with certain other upgrades that they made in the other models. So I'm kind of split between whether I'm happy or disappointed with this new release. If you haven't already, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TechCarMoon. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more content from me in the future, then hit that subscribe button. If you want to see some more content from me right now, click on these videos. They're absolutely fantastic videos. Anyway, everyone, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.